He was supposed to be humiliated. They sent him on a blind date as a joke. But when he started speaking in sign language, the entire room went silent. A billionaire built from betrayal, poverty, and pain. A woman who became his strength without speaking a single word. But when the man who destroyed his past suddenly returned with a dangerous secret, the real battle was just beginning. Because tonight, he would face the people who wanted him to fail. And choose between revenge, power, or the love that saved his life. What he chooses will shock you. Watch till the end. They laughed when they said her name. A blind date. A cruel office joke. I was the poor boy who fetched coffee. The one who once slept in a rented room. That smelled of damp walls and burnt noodles. They thought pairing me with a deaf woman would make the night entertaining. They did not know that silence once saved my life. Years ago, when my father lost everything. When debt collectors pounded our metal door. Like thunder against broken tin. I stopped speaking. Shame has a sound. It is heavy breathing in the dark. My mother worked until her hands cracked. I worked until my back ached. And in those quiet nights, I learned sign language from old library books. Because words felt safer without noise. So when she walked into the restaurant, soft blue dress, calm eyes, steady spine, I did not see a joke. I saw strength. My coworkers watched from across the room, waiting for discomfort. She sat down carefully, reading my lips. I lifted my hands and signed. Hello. My name is Daniel. Her eyes widened. The room fell silent. The laughter stopped. She signed back. Slow and graceful. Thank you for seeing me. No one had ever thanked me for something so simple. We spoke with our hands, while plates cooled between us. She told me she was tired of men who pitied her. I told her I was tired of men who pitied me. Two broken histories, facing each other without sound. That night changed everything. She became my courage. When investors mocked my trembling voice, she sat beside me. As I built a company from a borrowed laptop and borrowed hope. When betrayal came from the partner I trusted like a brother, it was her steady hands that signed. Stand up again. Today they call me a billionaire. They see the tailored suits, the glass towers with my name. They do not see the cold floors, the unpaid bills, the humiliation. They do not see her standing quietly beside the stage, the woman they once used as a joke. Last night, at our company anniversary, those same coworkers stood in the crowd. I stepped to the microphone, heart pounding, lights burning my eyes. Then I turned away from the microphone and raised my hands to speak in silence. My hands trembled in the bright light, but I did not lower them. The hall grew confused. Whispers floated like restless wind. I began to sign. Every movement clear. Every word deliberate. She believed in me when I was invisible. A giant screen behind me mirrored my hands. An interpreter voiced my signs. But I kept my eyes on her. In a world that worships noise, she taught me the power of silence. I saw some of them shift in discomfort. The same men who once laughed. I signed about the night of betrayal, when my business partner emptied our accounts and left me staring at a blinking zero. I signed about the panic, the shame, the fear of becoming that frightened boy again. And I signed about her. How she sold her only gold bracelet without telling me. How she placed the money in my palm and signed. This is not loss. This is investment in you. The memory still burns. Gold is cold at first touch. But her sacrifice was warm. The company survived because of that night. Because she refused to let me surrender. The audience was silent now. No mockery. No whispers. Only truth hanging in the air. I signed. They thought she was my weakness. I turned fully toward her. She is the reason I am strong. Her eyes shimmered under the lights. Not fragile. Unbreakable. I stepped down from the stage. And walked to her. Every step felt heavier than the last. I took her hands in mine. The same hands that built my courage. The room watched as I signed slowly. So there would be no misunderstanding. I built companies. I swallowed. But you built me. She pressed her forehead against mine. And for a moment, the world disappeared. The applause began softly. Then thundered through the hall. Yet inside that storm of sound, we stood in perfect silence. I thought the story of humiliation had finally turned into victory. But as the lights dimmed, and guests began to leave, my phone vibrated in my pocket. A message from an unknown number. 3 words. We need to talk. And beneath it, a name from my past. That I believed I had buried forever. The name on the screen froze my breath. Marcus Hale. The man who emptied our accounts. The man who vanished with my trust. For years I trained myself not to hate him. Hate is heavy. I was already carrying too much. My wife felt the shift in my body. She touched my arm gently. What is wrong? She signed. I showed her the message. Her expression did not harden. It softened. That is her strength. Where I see threat, she sees unfinished lessons. Outside, the night air was cool. City lights shimmered against glass towers. That once lived only in my imagination. My phone rang. I answered. His voice sounded older. Smaller. I am at the hospital, he said. I have nothing left. Strange how life circles back. Years ago, I was the one with nothing. Now the man who betrayed me was asking to speak. Every scar in my chest tightened. I remembered the sleepless nights. The creditors. The humiliation of explaining to employees why salaries would be late. I remembered signing to her. I have failed. And her firm reply. Failure is an event, not a person. That sentence built my comeback. Now the past was calling. I could ignore him. No one would blame me. Success gives power. Power tempts revenge. My wife held my face between her hands. Who do you want to be? She signed slowly. Not what do you feel. Not what does he deserve. Who do you want to be? The question cut deeper than betrayal. I looked at the hospital address on my screen. Marcus had once laughed at my idealism. He said kindness was weakness. If I walked away tonight, I would prove him right. If I walked toward him, I would face the boy I used to be. The driver opened the car door. My wife squeezed my hand once. A silent reminder. That strength is not in rising above others, but in rising above yourself. I stepped into the car. As the city blurred past the window, I prepared to see the man who almost destroyed my life. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and regret. White walls. Flickering lights. Footsteps echoing like unanswered questions. I had walked through doors like these before. When my father collapsed from exhaustion. Back then, I had no money. Only fear. Now I owned buildings taller than this hospital. Yet my hands felt just as empty. Room 417. I paused outside. My reflection stared back from the glass. Not the poor boy. Not the angry partner. Just a man being tested again. I opened the door. Marcus looked smaller in the bed. Machines hummed beside him. His once sharp eyes were dull. For a moment, neither of us spoke. He tried to sit up. He failed. I never thought you would come, he whispered. I almost did not, I replied. The truth tasted bitter. He looked at the floor. I thought taking everything would make me powerful. His voice cracked. It only made me alone. Silence stretched between us. I remembered the day he disappeared with the funds. The panic in my chest. The headlines predicting my collapse. I remembered my wife selling her bracelet. Her steady hand signing hope into my broken spirit. Marcus followed my gaze to my wedding ring. You won, he said weakly. I shook my head slowly. This was never a war. He laughed, then coughed. Even that sounded tired. There is something you should know, he said. His fingers trembled as he reached toward the drawer beside his bed. A thin envelope rested inside. My company logo was printed on the corner. My heartbeat slowed. I did not take it all for myself, he murmured. The room felt smaller. The machines louder. What are you saying? He swallowed with difficulty. There was someone else, someone powerful. I was desperate. I made a deal. The word deal burned. Old fear returned, sharp and familiar. Your success, he continued, was never supposed to happen. The envelope slid from his shaking hand and fell onto the bed between us. Inside it was a document that could either protect everything I built or destroy it overnight. I stared at his pale face. Years ago, he shattered my trust. Tonight, he was handing me a different kind of weapon. Outside the window, sirens wailed in the distance. Inside the room, I reached slowly for the envelope. My fingers hovered over the envelope. Paper can feel heavier than stone when it carries truth. I opened it carefully. Inside were contracts, signatures, bank transfers traced through hidden accounts. A powerful investor. A silent predator. He had funded Marcus to sabotage me from the beginning. I felt the old humiliation rise again. Was my struggle real? Or designed? Marcus watched my face. I was drowning in debt, he whispered. They promised protection. I chose survival. Survival. That word once defined me too. You were never meant to recover, he continued. When you rebuilt, they became afraid. Afraid of me. The idea felt unreal. Years of sleepless nights. Years of clawing forward inch by inch. And somewhere in the shadows, someone had expected my collapse. My wife's words echoed in my mind. Who do you want to be? Not a victim. Not a puppet of hidden hands. A builder. Marcus coughed again. There is a clause, he said weakly. They can still come after you. The hospital monitor beeped steadily, counting seconds I could not waste. I looked at the signature on the last page. A name known across industries. Respected. Feared. So this was the real mountain. Marcus closed his eyes. I am sorry, he said. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just human. For years I imagined this apology. It never felt enough. But standing beside his fragile body, revenge felt childish. You hurt me, I said calmly. But you do not control my future. His eyes filled with something close to relief. I placed the documents back into the envelope. This ends differently, I told him. Not with collapse. Not with silence. With strategy. With truth. I stepped into the hallway and called my legal team. My voice was steady. The war I never knew existed was now visible. Behind me, in room 417, the man who once destroyed my life had become the unlikely messenger. As I walked toward the exit, my phone buzzed again. A new message. From the powerful investor himself. I hear you visited Marcus. The doors slid open. Cold night air hit my face. The message continued. We should meet. Alone. I stood beneath the hospital lights. The envelope tight in my hand. Knowing the next decision could risk everything we built. The screen glowed in the dark parking lot. We should meet. Alone. No greeting. No explanation. Only control wrapped in politeness. For a moment, fear brushed against me again. Not the fear of poverty. Not the fear of failure. The fear of losing what I finally built. My wife answered when I called. Her face appeared on the screen, calm as dawn. I signed everything. The documents. The message. The invitation. She listened without interrupting. Then she signed slowly. If they wanted you destroyed, you would be gone already. I frowned. They are not confident, she continued. They are cautious. Cautious of me. The thought shifted something inside my chest. Years ago, I begged for opportunity. Now power was asking for a meeting. What if it is a trap? I signed. She smiled gently. Then walk in prepared, not afraid. Her wisdom always carried light. I looked at the hospital behind me. Pain had built me. Betrayal had trained me. Perhaps this was not an attack. Perhaps it was negotiation. I texted back. Name the place. The reply came instantly. Private lounge. Top floor. Orion Tower. Tomorrow. Midnight. Midnight. Symbolic. A time when deals are either born or buried. I drove home in silence. Our house overlooked the city I once feared. Lights shimmered like distant stars. Inside, she waited at the door. No dramatic words. No panic. She placed her hand over my heart. Remember who you are, she signed. Not the betrayed partner. Not the poor boy. The builder. That night, sleep refused to come. I studied the contracts again. Memorized every clause. Every hidden trap. If this investor believed I would fold. He still did not understand me. At 11:45. I stood before the mirror. Tailored suit. Steady eyes. But beneath the fabric was the same man who once practiced sign language alone in a quiet library corner. At 11:59, the elevator doors of Orion Tower closed behind me. The numbers climbed slowly. 20. 35. 50. With every floor, the air felt thinner. When the doors finally opened, a single figure stood near the window. Back turned. Hands clasped behind his suit jacket. He did not move as I stepped forward. He simply said, I have been expecting you. His voice was smooth. Controlled. Used to obedience. The city lights framed his silhouette like a crown. I prefer to see the faces of men who try to destroy me, I said calmly. He turned slowly. Silver hair. Measured smile. Eyes that calculated before they blinked. You were never meant to survive, he replied. Honesty without apology. I stepped closer, placing the envelope on the glass table between us. You invested in my failure. I invested in probability, he corrected. As if my life were a statistic. He poured 2 glasses of water. Offered one. I did not drink. You built something impressive, he continued. Resilience like yours is rare. Expensive. There it was. Not fear. Interest. You sabotaged me, I said. Yes. No denial. And now? He folded his hands. Now I would rather have you with me than against me. The words hung heavy. Partnership. Or quiet elimination. I felt anger rise. But anger had cost me before. I remembered my wife's steady eyes. Walk in prepared, not afraid. You underestimated me once, I said. Why should I trust you now? He smiled faintly. Trust is irrelevant. Alignment is profitable. Cold logic. He slid a new folder across the table. Inside were projections. Global expansion. Numbers that dwarfed even my ambition. You join my board, he said. We rewrite the narrative. Together. And Marcus? I asked. A disposable mistake, he replied without emotion. That answer told me everything. To him, people were tools. To me, people were the foundation. I closed the folder gently. I built my empire from loyalty, I said quietly. Not manipulation. He studied me carefully. You are more emotional than I expected. No, I answered. I am more disciplined. Silence filled the lounge. Below us, the city moved unaware of the decision forming above it. Power offered me more power. But at what cost? He leaned forward slightly. This opportunity will not come twice. I thought of my wife selling her bracelet. Of employees who trusted my name. Of the boy who feared becoming small. I placed my hand on the folder. Not to accept. Not yet to refuse. But to understand the weight of the choice. I will give you my answer, I said steadily. After you hear one condition from me. His eyebrow lifted slightly. A condition? Yes. I met his gaze without blinking. And it begins with the truth about who you really are. He leaned back slowly. For the first time, his expression shifted. Not anger. Not amusement. Curiosity. You already know who I am, he said. A powerful investor, I replied. A man who hides behind contracts. I held his gaze. But power always has a wound. Silence pressed against the glass walls. Outside, the city glittered. Inside, truth waited. His jaw tightened slightly. You assume too much. I learned to read silence, I said calmly. Silence always reveals what noise tries to hide. That sentence belonged to my wife. I carried it like armor. He walked toward the window. Hands behind his back again. When I was young, he began slowly. My father trusted the wrong partner. The air shifted. He lost everything. Our home. Our reputation. His reflection in the glass looked older now. I decided then, he continued, that I would never be the one betrayed. I would be the one in control. There it was. Not cruelty. Fear disguised as dominance. You saw my company growing, I said quietly. And you chose to test me before I could threaten you. He did not deny it. I eliminate uncertainty, he replied. And yet, I said. You are uncertain about me now. He turned sharply. Our eyes locked. You rebuilt after sabotage, he said. You forgave publicly. You gained loyalty. That makes you unpredictable. I stepped closer to the table. My condition is simple. He waited. You admit what you did. Privately. In writing. And you agree that no hidden hand will ever move against my people again. He stared at me as if measuring my spine. You are negotiating from morality, he said. No, I corrected. I am negotiating from strength. The room felt smaller. He walked back to the table. Placed both hands on the glass. And if I refuse? I slid Marcus's documents slightly forward. Then I build without you, I answered. And I do not build quietly. The threat was calm. Controlled. For a long moment, only the distant hum of elevators filled the silence. He studied me. Not as prey, but as equal. Then he reached for a pen. The tip hovered above a blank sheet of paper. This changes our relationship forever, he said. Yes, I replied steadily. That is the point. The pen touched the page. The pen moved slowly across the paper. His signature was not dramatic. Just deliberate. Controlled. He exhaled deeply. You are a dangerous man, he said quietly. Not because you fight, but because you choose when not to fight. I nodded. I learned that from suffering, I replied. Outside, midnight city lights softened. No more tension. Only quiet victory, not loud triumph. He handed me the signed document. No more sabotage, he said. No hidden wars. I believed him. Not because he was kind. Because I had learned to read people beyond their words. I left the tower alone. The cold night air felt different. Not heavy with fear. Light with possibility. My phone vibrated. My wife's message. Come home. I made tea. Simple words. The most powerful victory celebration I could imagine. When I reached home, she was waiting at the door. She did not ask about negotiations. She did not ask about danger. She simply hugged me. That moment was louder than applause. Inside, we sat together in silence. I told her everything. She listened with her eyes. Patient, strong, wise. When I finished, she signed slowly. You became successful, but you did not become cold. That was the greatest compliment of my life. Years later, my company expanded globally. But I never forgot the boy who slept in hunger. The man who was betrayed. The husband who was built by love, not money. I created scholarships for poor students. I hired people with disabilities. I paid every employee fairly, even when profits were uncertain. Success felt meaningful only when shared. One evening, I stood on the balcony of my home, watching the sunset paint the sky golden red. My wife stood beside me. I signed to her. We survived because we never stopped believing in kindness. She smiled. The moral of my story is simple. Power without compassion is empty. Success without sacrifice is hollow. And true wealth is not measured in money, but in the lives you help heal while you climb. I once thought I needed to fight the world. Now I know the greatest victory is building a world where no child feels as lonely as I once did. And somewhere in the quiet evening air, I felt peace. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Heart Touch Story for more emotional and inspiring stories. Comment below what you felt after this story. Your thoughts and support help us create more meaningful stories for you. Stay strong, stay kind, and always believe in your dreams.